This is the final challenge of 2021 and also the final challenge of Departmental December. So congrats if you got all 5 of those challenges completed. So we're looking at complaints this week. So here's the list of our complaints and also the person who complained. And then we've got some departments as well with those keywords of how to assign the complaints to a department. So first of all, we want to see how many people, or sorry, how many complaints there's been per person. So we're going to use a fixed LOD for that. So just I went to the name field and went to the 3 dots to choose fixed LOD. So create calculated field, fixed LOD on the name. That gives us the group by name, because if you're going on a string field, it's always going to add that to the group by section when you're doing a fixed LOD. And then I just added in the compute using count complaint so that we get that 1, 2, 3 for the number of complaints. Okay, and then comes the point where we want to try and join up these 2 data sources together so we can see that we don't have any fields that are in common. So the way that I chose to do this is that I joined together these 2 data sources, and I used the not equals symbol so that I get a basically every complaint is joined up to every possible department. And obviously we're going to filter some of those out, but we go from having 11 rows here, 9 rows here, to have 99 rows in total. So in this instance, we've got quite a small number of rows, so that's quite a valid kind of way to approach the challenge. If we had, say, I don't know, like 10,000 complaints and 100 different departments, maybe that wouldn't be the best way to do it because you'd explode the data quite a lot. You go from 10,000 to having, how many would that be? Like a million, I think. Yeah, you'd have that would make a million rows. So maybe not the best way to do it in that instance. But we'll just talk through for this challenge. That's what I've done. So then what we're doing with the filtering here is we're doing a contains complaint keyword. And I noticed that in Carl's version of the challenge, he made the keyword be lowercase in order to fit that. But if you just look at the top one here, then I can see the word toilets matches up with the word toilet. So it doesn't actually matter. It's case insensitive in this instance. Okay, so what we have now is 11 rows. And if I look at the number of complaints, because that's kind of the row per complaint in the initial complaints data set, I only have 8 complaints remaining, whereas if I come back to here, I actually have 11. So there are 3 complaints that we're missing out, so that's why we join this data back onto the sort of original stream, join it on the complaint itself and make sure it's a left join so these 3 rows come through. And then just make sure that for our, where are they for, so if I go back to here, then our keyword, there would be a null here, and we just change that to other. The department, we change the null to be unknown. And we do that just simply by double clicking into that value and writing over it. You could write a calculated field, but I find that way is just a little bit quicker in Tableau Prep. And then I'm duplicating this keyword field because now what we want to do is we want to concatenate values so we can see that, for example, for certain complaints, for this one, for example, they have multiple of these keywords associated with them. So where the department is the same, we want to concatenate that. So we only have one row that says food, comma, luggage, for example. So in order to do that, following the hint that Carl left for us, we're going to do some pivoting. So that's why we've duplicated our keyword field. So we're using our rows to columns, turning each of these different keywords into a separate field, and using that keyword -1, just using the max so that, where there is a value, say this luggage field here has luggage in the row as well. And then to concatenate it, I had an idea of how to do this that's slightly different to how Carl did it. I don't think it ended up being much more efficient, but I like trying different ways. So let's give you a different way here. So it's kind of similar in that we're saying for each of these fields, I just went in alphabetical order of the 9 or so different departments, sorry, different what are they called? Classifications of keywords. That's the word I'm looking for, keywords. So we're saying if null, that advertise keyword, then make it, give it, this is just an empty inverted quotes here. So this just stops it from being null if it encounters any nulls. So that's why we have the if null, and then we're just putting a space between each of them, not a space comma, just a space, because my idea was that I could then get rid of any duplicate white spaces and then turn any space that was remaining into a comma space. That was my kind of theory, how I wanted to approach it. But we'll talk about why that didn't quite work out how I thought it would in a minute. So we're just doing all of that concatenation together, and then you can see all of these fields. So we've got the food luggage coming together that we were talking about earlier. So then I went to cleaning and removing the extra spaces. So if you hover over remove extra spaces, okay, I thought it gave you more of a description as to what it does there. It just means that anytime it's encountering, trailing or leading white space, it's going to get rid of that, but it's also going to look at duplicated white space throughout as well. So yeah, it would get rid of that too. So we apply that change, and then we're left with this list here. And all we want to do now is put a comma between food and luggage. So my initial idea was just to use a replace, as I was saying. So this replace complaint causes a space with a comma space. But of course, our baby changing is just one key word. So we need to kind of account for that as well, because we don't want a comma between baby and changing. So we need to make sure that if the complaint cause equals baby changing, then just leave it alone, otherwise do this replace function. Okay, and then all that was left was to remove the extra fields, move them about a bit so that they're in the right order, and that's Departmental December challenge finished. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope that was useful for you.